Hi friends, Dusty here and at home as well. I hope all of you are, as we are all quarantined in this time. I just want to say first and foremost, miss you, and I miss all my friends and my worship team and just everybody, but here we are. We are in the situation that we're in, and so I just wanted to share a little bit of a devotion with you and just something that's been on my heart these last few days, and just want to share it with you and maybe be a good thing for you as well. There is a scripture that comes to mind. It takes place in the book of Mark at the very end of chapter 4. It's a story in which Jesus decides he's going to cross over this lake and head to another territory. And he bundles together his teenage disciples, and they get on this boat and they go on this journey. The story is that on their way to the other side of this very, very large lake, a sudden storm picks up out of nowhere. And the scriptures go into great detail that the water starts to wash over the sides of the boat. It starts sloshing around on the deck, and everybody on the ship are panicked and they're scared. The storm, the wind, the rain, everything has them convinced that they're going to die. This ship is not going to make it. It is going to sink. And the story says that in their panic, they head looking for Jesus. And they go into the inside of the ship, and there he is, fast asleep. In fact, the book of Mark goes into detail that he's on a cushion. He's comfortable. He is asleep. They go and wake him up, and they're like, Jesus, do you just want us all to die? Do something. And Jesus gets onto the deck of the ship. He looks out over to the storm, and he says, quiet, be still. And with that, the storm calms, the rain stops, the chaos is quieted. And he turns to his disciples and he says, why are you so afraid? Do you not have faith? And then with that, the disciples start looking at each other like, who is this guy that he can just stop a storm like this? When I read this story, I think about a time when I was 12. My dad had given me this very important responsibility to wash his most prized possession, and that was his red Toyota pickup, this raised truck that he had. Now, at 12 years old, I don't know if you ever washed a car. A car is one thing, but a truck is another thing. I mean, you gotta wash the bed of the truck. This thing was really tall, so you have to climb onto it. And this is my dad's most cherished possession, and I was gonna take good care of it. And so I had my buckets of soap, and I'm scrubbing this thing, and I'm rinsing it with the hose. And finally, I got all done, and I needed to dry it off. And I lived out in the country in this small town called Kingsburg. And my dad had parked the truck on the lawn. So back over at the porch of the house, I had all the towels all folded up. And so I climbed down out of this massive truck, and I head over to the porch to grab these towels. And in a blink of an eye, I don't know what it was, but this storm came out of nowhere. And it wasn't that the wind nearly knocked me down. It was the fact that I lived out in the country and I was surrounded by all these grape vineyards. And the tractors every day would come in and they would plow up the soil so it was soft. So it was basically like this dry dust. And it was a complete 360 around my house. So as the storm built up, this dust just came every which way. And at 12 years old, I'm immediately just blinded. I can't see my hands out in front of me. So I just did what I could, was I just covered my eyes and just stood there on my lawn. And as quickly as it came, it went. The dust just sort of fell where it was. And I remember sort of pulling my hands away from my face, and there was just debris and dust and leaves and garbage everywhere. This storm had knocked down trees in town, and it was all over the news. One had like fallen and hit the house, and it was crazy. But 12 years old, all I could do was look back at my dad's truck that was wet and soaked and now caked with all of this dirt, and I had to start all over again. And just like in this story, this storm just came out of nowhere. And I don't know about you, but like, there are problems we have. Like, we need to improve at work, or we're in an argument with somebody else, or we did really bad on a test. I mean, those are problems. We can solve that, right? There's solutions. There's things that we can do. But when you're in a storm, there's, like me, all I could do was stop and cover my eyes. It is so above me. It is so beyond my pay grade that there's literally in that moment, there's nothing to do. I feel like that right now. I feel like with this coronavirus, I'm experiencing this with my job. A week ago, I got an email one day saying that this coronavirus was going to be a concern, and there's just going to be this little form that when I work in a dental office, I manage a dental office, and I got this little form that I was told that when a patient was to check in, my receptionist was to hand it to the patient. It basically just asked them, have you been out of the country lately? Are you coughing? Do you have a temperature? No big deal. Later that day, the New York Times came out and saying that the most dangerous job you can have, the most likely to contract this virus, is in dentistry, because you literally are working in a person's mouth, and that's where this virus sort of dwells. The next day, conference call. Was it in my email? Nothing. It was just told we have this emergency conference call, and we're told right away we have to halt all use of specific tools with patients because it basically vaporizes the things in their mouth so that we would all inhale it, and we have to cease all of these specific appointments. So we have to call these patients and say, unfortunately, we can't do this service because of this coronavirus. At the end of that day, emergency conference call, we're ceasing all treatment except for emergencies. So out of nowhere, I have to cancel all of these appointments. We're having to cut hours. We're having to move staff around. And the next day, emergency conference call, office is closed for 3 weeks, tentatively. And we're all on furlough. Just out of nowhere, everything has changed. I feel like, and I'm sure a lot of you feel like, there is this storm going on around us. And it's so above our pay grade. And in these kinds of moments, when it's not something we can fix, we turn to things bigger than ourselves. We turn to our government. We turn to our president. We turn to the leaders of the world. And when we see they don't have the answers, they're trying to figure it out just as much as we are, we turn to even bigger things. We turn to God. We turn to the divine. We turn to prayer. We turn to whatever it is out there that may be able to fix this. This is the story we study. The disciples are running around on this deck. This is way above their pay grade. They can't stop this, and so they turn to their rabbi. And the story should go, at this moment in time, Jesus bursts out from the inside of the ship, concerned. He stops the storm and becomes the hero. But like anything in the Bible, it never goes the way it should. The disciples go looking for Jesus, and he's inside the ship on a cushion, fast asleep. Why? You see, for many of us, the stories in the Bible are sort of like facts. They are times in history that we can point at and go, look, Jesus can do such and such. Like Jesus is a magician, and we can say, well, Jesus can make the blind see. He can make the lame walk. He can stop a storm. Look. But unfortunately, if that's all we allow these stories to be, we miss out on so much, because these stories say deep things about the divine, deep things about the human experience. It's not just about the fact that Jesus can stop a storm. It's about that Jesus was sleeping. Why? Here it is, my friends. Jesus is sleeping in this storm because Jesus can cope with it. Jesus can cope with this. Jesus got tired, so he went to bed. It's what he wanted to do. It's what he felt. It was the best thing for himself. He went to bed because he was sleepy. And so when the disciples come to wake him up and he goes to calm this storm, you see, Jesus is a rabbi. And the point of being a rabbi was to be an example, to show people what a life looks like in shalom, in reconciliation with God. What does it look like? And a rabbi was to set an example for us to follow. Jesus is showing us how to cope with the storms. As we are in this place of, do I have a job at the end of this? What's going to happen? How am I going to pay the rent that's coming up? How am I going to pay these bills? How long is this going to go? When I go back, is my job even guaranteed? Are we going into another Great Depression? The politics of this whole thing. Are we going to have an answer? Are they going to come up with it? Or is the other side going to halt it? Are they going to argue? Are they not going to be able to come up with an answer or a solution? If I go on Facebook, my friends over here are arguing with these friends over here, and they're telling each other how this should be done, and nothing is happening. And then there are people over here saying that this isn't a big deal, it's just a cold, and then this person just died. Do I have it? Can I get access to a test? Can I find out whether or not I'm going to be okay? Do I have enough toilet paper? Do I need toilet paper, right? Do I have enough food? Should I be getting more food? Should this be a bigger deal? Am I making this too much of a big deal? Quiet. Be still. The challenge Jesus has for us, the example the divine is showing us, is the ability to cope in the storm. You see, Jesus finds the perfect balance of how to coexist in the midst of it, yet take it seriously. Jesus doesn't sleep through the storm. When it becomes an issue and the disciples come and find him, he faces the problem. So if you're trying to sleep through this, if you're like, oh, it's no big deal, I don't have to follow the rules, I don't need to stay at home. No, this is serious. People are losing their jobs, people are getting sick, people are dying. It's okay to be scared in this. It's okay. But see, Jesus is able to exist in the midst of it without becoming part of the problem. That's the example for us in this story. So 1, cope. Learn to live in the midst of this. Jesus was sleepy, so he went to bed. What do you need in this time? Do something for yourself. Sleep in. Take advantage of this time. Call some old friends you haven't talked to. Go sit out in the sun. Do some prayer. Do some meditation. Learn something new. Pick up YouTube. Learn how to break dance. Learn how to cook something you've never cooked before. Learn a new language. Pick up an instrument you haven't touched in a long time. Do something for yourself. Sleep. But at the same time, take this seriously. Learn what you can do and what you can't do. Learn that it's okay to be worried. It's okay to be concerned. But what can you actually do? I'd recommend the best thing to cope is to take care of yourself. The next thing, exercise. Do something physical. Clean your house. Work out. Make a goal to be able to do 1 pull-up by the end of the week. Make a goal to be able to do 10 by the end of the week. The next thing is to find a community of people. Find somebody in your life that listens. They don't try to solve your problems. They don't try to tell you that it's wrong for you to be worried or afraid. Find somebody that will just simply hear you in this time, who will love you in it. Maybe it might be a pastor, a family member, a friend, or a lot of therapists in this time, including my own, are offering kind of a video session. That might be something to consider in this time. Find somebody to talk to in this time. The next thing is to just accept this time. Accept it. And know that this storm, too, will pass. If you're afraid and you're scared and you're panicked, it's okay. It's absolutely okay. That's totally understandable. But don't become part of this problem. So friends, may you cope in this time. May you follow our rabbi. May you learn to coexist in the panic, in the quiet. May you be quiet and be still. May you take this seriously. May you not take it so seriously. May you take this time as an opportunity to grow. May you cope in this time. You are loved. It's gonna be okay. And this too shall pass. Friends, may the grace and peace of God be with you. Can't wait to see you again.